All right, we're live.
Hey,
You can say hi to the crowd.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, great seeing you.
Louis, thanks for having me,
You're
man.
here.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
We are in the sales center. I can't tap the table because the tripod's on the table. But my name's Alex Vidal. I am president of Related ISG International Realty and host of the show you're watching today. Inquiring minds want to know. Episode 36.
Wow, episode 36.
Episode number 36. Churning and burning, baby. Thank you guys for watching. If you like today's episode, as always, please like it, share it, love it. If you're a Miami realtor or South Florida realtor, you're definitely going to want to share today's episode with your customers because we're talking all about Miami. As always, today's episode is brought to you by Related ISG International Realty. If you want to work with a broker who's connected to some of the biggest real estate players in Miami and in the country, mindset, motivational people, business people in general, call me, text me, DM me. Work with the company that's pushing not only the company itself, but our agents to be the best in the business. I'm done with that part. Louis, you ready?
I'm all ready.
All right, we got eight questions. Now, okay. I didn't know this about you. Doing my research, you have over 70 projects under your belt. 70 projects under his belt. The one next to us is including the skyline changing Zaha Hadid 1000 Museum. Tell us a little bit about your path to how you got to where you are today.
Well, I've been involved in real estate development pretty much all of my adult life. I'm an architect by training. Okay. Practiced architecture for about a dozen years before I really started focusing on development. We're involved in projects all over Florida. We're involved in projects all over the United States. Had a lot of stuff. I was accustomed to working on 15, 20 projects at one time across the country until the global financial crisis occurred in 2007, 8.
Fun times.
At that time we had about 20 projects that we were involved in. We worked our way through all those projects. And then, there was a number of years where we just kind of we were focusing on distressed real estate because that's all there was for a while. Then in around 2011, 2012, we started to see some signs, which was very promising because we thought that the downturn was going to be a lot longer than it actually turned out to be. And that's sort of what led us to this opportunity here in 2012. We sort of focused in on acquisition of the site. That was a site that
there was a gas station.
There was a gas station here, a pawn shop. It was like one of the last acres on Biscayne, overlooking Museum Park, and the time was right, to move on a project like this. It was early 2013 that we actually hired Zaha Hadid to start the design process. We actually broke ground around early 2015. Okay, wow. And now here we are finishing the building. We should be, first occupancy should be sometime around, end of first quarter of this year.
Wow, already?
Yeah, I mean,
we're going into the building after this.
We're punching units out. Units are done. We're finishing up common areas and site work, and we're getting real close. Cool.
Now, you said something at one point, and this is not even on here, so I'm just going to go off the cuff. You were managing 15 to 20 projects at once.
Yeah.
Now you have 1,000 Museum. What does 1,000 Museum equate to if you were to give it a number of projects?
It's like working on 10 projects.
Is it really?
I mean, it is.
It's that sophisticated.
It really is. It's we're dealing with international architect, out of London. Who's obviously no longer with us. He passed away. Once the project was about on the 7th or 8th floor. Project was all designed, but so. Managing that process, managing our whole local team of architects and engineers of record that are, working here locally on everything. We have product, very innovative product and methods that we were building this building, technologies that had never been used before for a building of this height, these precast leave-in-place concrete forms that were basically fabricated off the architect's 3D model. Shipped here piece by piece from Dubai, in almost 5,000 pieces, 600-700 containers that had to come from across the world. Wow. And also dealing with other components of the building, like some feature ceilings that we have within the building, wall and ceiling panels that were made in some in California, some in Mexico, also some others in Dubai.
Wow.
And then all the other products that went into the building from Italy and Germany and just all these places around the world. So big logistics and just things that have never been done before. So a lot of
in a tight space.
We have 1 acre site. We have no room on site.
Yeah.
Everything. We don't even have a trailer on site. I mean, everything was off site. Storage, offices. I mean, we have office space in this building that we occupy. The contractors occupy. I mean, it's a big team to put this together.
Good work, man.
So it's been a lot of work.
I love it, and we're gonna post photos and videos later when we get up there. I've actually never been in the building, so I'm looking forward to it.
You're gonna like it.
Now, landmark, and this is a landmark project. Like 1000 Museum, come with major risks, major stress, but major risk, major reward, right? Do you have any systems or habits in place that you kind of hedge on, dealing with that stress and that risk?
Well, I mean, like developers are really optimistic people by nature,
Correct.
So and to be a good developer, you really have to be able to handle stress, because if you don't, it'll just, everything will just eat you up. Interesting, like things that would really stress people out, don't really stress me out.
Okay.
But I'm very much a creature of habit. If it was up to me, I would do the same thing, every day.
Right.
I don't need a lot of variety, in my life. But the reality is that's not what development is about.
Sure.
So, my day starts very routine. I get up early, I go to the gym, come home, shower, go by my local Starbucks, go through all my emails, and that's the end of my routine. From there on, I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the day. I really don't. Other than meetings that are scheduled, things come up every day, constantly on projects like this. So that's like the end of my routine for the day. I don't know what time I'm going to finish at the end of the day, and the rest is reactive to things that go on. And sales is a big driver for things too, because no matter what we're working on, because I'm also very involved sort of on the sales side of things too, and overseeing and managing that whole process with our team. And when there's a potential sale to be made, other things have to get put on the back burner. I'm dealing with a crisis, but hey, there's
sales cures all.
Sales cures all, and client comes in, and our team, they want to talk to they have questions for the developer, whatever it is.
But what's the average price
available? Our units right now are from about 5.8 million up to over 20 million. We really only have a couple different types of unit. We have a half floor, a full floor unit, and then we have these a few duplex townhouses that are essentially half floor, 2 stories high, and so that's sort of the range of product type. But it's really the units are very individual in the sense that because of this crazy structure we have going on, people really need to see in the units and really understand where a column falls in the facade, and
the columns change as you go through.
Virtually every floor, the column is in a different position, different configuration. Wow. But because of the design of this exoskeleton, most of the structure is pushed to the outside, so we have big, open, expansive spaces within the units.
I can't wait to see it. But at $6 million and up, I can see why somebody wants to get the development.
And they're large. The units are large. I mean, our smallest unit in the building, not small, is 4,600 square feet.
I live in Davie. That's bigger than my house in Davie.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, we're building houses stacked vertically, and that was always the clientele that we envisioned attracting was someone who was coming from wherever they were coming in the world to want to be in Miami, which is a lot of places. We'll talk about that. And doesn't want to buy a house here. They can afford to buy a house. This maybe represents a third, fourth, fifth home to them somewhere in the world. And maybe, having a house on the water on one of these islands isn't for everybody, especially if they spend a couple months a year here. It's a lot of upkeep. So
well, that's a great segue, because and I want to talk about that, because you sell Miami to some of the wealthiest people. I mean, you're not only selling 1000 Museum, but you have to sell Miami, right?
Sell Miami, sure.
So let's segue right into that. If under this kind of two-pronged question is, since the audience is primarily realtors, I love asking the local players, what's something that every realtor should be including in their elevator pitch about Miami? And what do you find are the most appealing features about Miami to the ultra rich that are buying these units?
So, look, I think what's important for the broker community to you know, sort of have in their sort of
elevator pitch,
in their elevator pitch is what a relative value Miami is. If you look at Miami and as a global city, and you look at other global cities that, you know, high net worth and ultra high net worth people who travel the world own real estate in, and you compare Miami to those other cities, okay? Miami's relatively inexpensive.
Okay.
You know, compare it to New York,
Sure,
compare it to Monaco, compare it to, you know, other places in
Chicago,
Europe.
LA.
I mean,
That's just
it's relatively inexpensive. And if you think about it, if you are someone who's buying a third, fourth, fifth home, okay, you're more of a long investor. You're not the investor who says, "Oh, I want to buy something and flip it." I mean, that's a different type of condominium product that we have in Miami.
Sure.
It's really someone who's thinking more long term. They're saying, "Look, I have money. I need a place to put my money. I like to diversify where my money is in terms of assets. I have art, I have cars I collect, you know, I have real estate around the world, I have stocks, whatever it is that they put their money in." So they're all, at the end of the day, they want to put their money in safe places. So the U.S. is obviously one of these places where there's flight to safety and security from all these other places. You know, Miami attracts people from around the world, not just within the United States, although that's shifting, which I'm sure you are aware of. And so if someone's going to put money into a hard asset like real estate and they're looking for some long-term appreciation, if you think about it, if you are buying the best product in a marketplace, like say here in Miami, and you know, we're at the top of the market here in downtown, and you say are paying $1,500 to $2,000 a square foot for an asset, and you look at a comparable, similarly situated piece of real estate designed by world-class architect, high-level finishes, you know, unique trophy property, and say you go to New York, okay? You might pay $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a foot for similarly situated, comparable product. Two different cities, but we're talking comparing.
3X,
okay? So the likelihood of a piece of property like this, long-term appreciation, moving from $1,500 to $3,000 in terms of its value over time, is greater than that $5,000 or $6,000 a square foot property in New York getting to $10,000 or $12,000 a foot. So you know what I'm saying? Both maybe doubling over time, but the likelihood of it, because once you get, you know, the air gets thinner as you get higher, you know, in things like that. And there becomes other places that people can go. So Miami's a relative value, and I think people are need to have their clients understand what a good value it is here in Miami.
So great value, but what's even getting them to Miami? So we always said realtors, great value compared to the other major cities. But what's getting them here?
Well, obviously the weather, the lifestyle, safety, security, from maybe especially people who are coming from other parts of the world, okay, that see the U.S. as a safer, secure place. We're seeing a lot of people that are coming here because of tax and asset protection, okay? Preservation of wealth. I mean, all these high tax states, you know, New York, Connecticut, you know, California, we're seeing those people. So what's happened, and I'm sure you've probably experienced it, Miami, South Florida is kind of, especially Miami's, you know, been more traditionally 25-30% domestic, and you know, 70% South American. That's changed. Okay, we're starting to see there's been a lot of turmoil in South America, which has been also driving people, you know, maybe to other places than the U.S. from South America, or they're just staying put for economic reasons. But now we're starting to see that shift, where it's getting closer to like 50-50 in terms of, we're actually seeing more domestic than we are outside.
That's an exponential jump.
Yeah, so I think where things were moving, you know, before, where it was more heavily weighted Latin America, and that could change, in the next 5 years, things happen there. But, you know, we're starting to see a shift of being more 50-50 in terms of the buyers that are coming in. And we're talking the high net worth, you know.
Hey, but you just gave me a great idea. You know, we're talking about the elevator pitch about Miami, and you're talking about how Miami is such a great benefit. Aside from the weather, there's all these tax benefits. Yeah. I wonder how many realtors actually know the advantage of, well, really we're looking at Florida. I guess Miami too is a city.
Something that, I mean, look, we have no state tax.
No city tax.
No local tax. You know, in many cases, our sales tax is even lower than some comparable markets. And we have asset protection advantages, you know, with homesteading in Florida, things like that. So even people who maybe don't spend a lot of their time here may still domicile here, because the reality is these global high net worth people, they don't spend a lot of time anywhere.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, if you own 5 or 6 houses, how much time can you spend in any one of them? Yeah. So why not make Miami
your home? Get the tax benefit.
You know.
Interesting. You gave me an idea for a show. I'm gonna. Okay. I got it. More to come.
Get a royalty on it?
Sure. I don't make money off the show, but yeah, absolutely. Now we talked about the real estate climate, because we're definitely in an interesting real estate climate. I mean, you just said it, right? It used to be 25-75, and now it's 50-50, domestic and international. What advice and tips and information can you give to our realtor viewers watching this about trying to sell? Really, there's nothing pre-construction right now. Those are gone. But what tips can you give them on trying to sell projects that are under construction? Or almost done?
I would focus on projects that are nearing completion or completed, as opposed to projects that are more highly speculative, that maybe haven't really come out of the ground yet.
Yeah.
Again, the high net worth buyer is not. They're looking for something more immediate gratification. Yeah. You know, so when you sell something on a you know, that's why the guy goes out and buys a yacht, buys a plane, or whatever it is that, you know, art, whatever it's more impulsive because there's more immediate gratification involved. Obviously, there's other financial reasons for it, but so the guy that's, you know, putting money down on a building that's going to deliver 4 or 5 years from now, he may lose interest, and a lot can happen in 4 or 5 years, as we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, you know, in terms of what happens with the market. So I think those projects that are, you know, real, that are inventory, and then the other part of it is, I can't tell you how many people that I've seen lately who have come in and, you know, actually started to see our building, who maybe bought something else somewhere here in Miami. And you hear these stories about, you know, they wish they had waited, you know, they bought off plan, they didn't really know what the finished product was going to be, it didn't meet their expectations. You know, when you have that kind of money where you can, you know, virtually buy anything that you want, you know, you want to buy what you want, see, you know, what you can see. So yes, there's an advantage to buying earlier, because in theory, you know, you're going to hopefully get better pricing than when you buy later, but you don't really necessarily know what you're buying. So to some people, especially if you're a long-term investor and you plan on holding the asset for a long time anyway, you're not really saving anything, ending up buying something that you're unhappy with, and then when you go to try to resell it, whenever that might be, you know, you have an inferior product. So it's really knowing the buyer, getting that buyer that wants something now or relatively now, and showing them that. Yeah. Okay. Now, what are we? We're January 21st or January 22nd right now? January, I get lost with the days. What's your take on the Miami real estate market for 2019? Definitely seeing signs of improving already. You know, compared. You know, what signs are you seeing? Just the increased traffic. Okay. The quality of buyers, the types of buyers. We're seeing less speculative buyers, people that are really interested in the Miami market for some of the benefits that we just talked about. So, you know, things started to slow down a little bit in 2017. 2018 was, you know, kind of slow. Sure. You started to see things picking up towards the end of 18, and we're seeing that continue into 19. So I think that 19, you know, will be a good year here in Miami real estate wise. I hope so. God willing, right? But you know, I'm an optimistic developer, so it's so funny you say that, because as you were saying that, I was thinking in the back of my head, well, he's got to be optimistic. But it's true. I think we're seeing it too. We're seeing a lot of transactions. No, we're seeing a lot of people. And if you look at the numbers and you look at, you know, what's happening with pricing, there is an uptick. Sure. Yeah. And we're seeing it. You know, Craig, you know Craig very well, and he's at Brickell City Center, and Brickell City Center is really churning and burning. And and you know, developers want to make deals. And Brickell's a great area. You know, it's like, I mean, that's an area that's really come into its own, and you know. So in this place, this location's phenomenal. This is really the, you know.
Now, I have two more questions regarding Miami because I've interviewed a lot of the local players like Mayor Francis Suarez, Alicia Severa, Nid Matwani, Averett Jane, Dora Puig, and I love these questions for the local players about their opinion on Miami as a whole and its evolution. So, because very similar, a lot of similar answers. How do you see the personality of Miami evolving? And what does that make you think Miami will look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Well, Miami, like you, is very extroverted. Okay, Miami's kind of a little flashy at times, compared to some other places. So it's very extroverted, sure. But it's very inviting and friendly and generally a happy place. From as its personality,
Sure.
So, and I see more of that continuing. I mean, more and more people continue to come here. Buildings are pushing higher. People are doing more innovative things in buildings with technology, and I see those trends continuing because it's a place people want to be.
And you just touched upon something so nice. When you look at the other major cities, New York, LA, Chicago, whatever, those cities are pretty much built out. There's not much more you can do. So all that technology-driven building, or all that building technology that's coming into play in the country, really is going to find its home here because we have so much more.
And also, if you just look historically, and I mean, most of what's happened in the condominium development world really started here. I mean, obviously, South Florida or Florida wasn't the first place to have condominiums, but it's the most prevalent type of product that we have here, where some cities don't have hardly any condominium product at all. So a lot of what's happened in sort of how condominiums have evolved, the way they're designed, the way they sort of operate, even a lot of the regulations around kind of all originated here in Florida to a great extent because we had so much of it. Sure. So I think you'll continue to see that, and yes, we have still opportunities to build things, but and more than maybe some of these other more developed cities, but it's becoming less and less, and as you have that, that's why you're going to see buildings pushing higher and densities being higher and things like that. But because people want to be here.
That's right. Listen, like I told you before we started,
we wouldn't build stuff if there was no one coming here.
But I've been to New York twice for the show and interviewed Ryan Searhan, Dottie Herman, who's the CEO of Douglas Sullivan. Went to Dallas, interviewed this big insurance guy. Went to California twice. And every time I travel to these cities, it's great because you get to travel. Then I come, I'm like, I can't wait to get back home.
Yeah,
There's nothing like Miami.
Yeah. And they all want to come here too, and just as much as, you'll have the brokers in New York who kind of knock Miami or whatever it is, but they're all here. Yeah. They all come here. So, I mean, they're coming here for a reason.
Yeah. The guy I interviewed in Dallas, his manager essentially that manages all his social media and his scheduling podcasts and all that stuff came down to Miami. He's like, dude, he called me over the weekend. He's like, dude, this is like the Beverly Hills of the beach, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
He was really excited. That's a Dallas guy, right? Yeah. Two last questions. If you were to give Miami an age, what age would you give it?
Mid-30s.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
It's matured. Okay. It's learned some lessons.
Okay.
But it's still young enough to take chances, take some risks, and it's got a long life ahead of it.
Got it.
So I'd say it's in its mid-30s.
I love it. Alicia Severa said it was a woman in her 30s, and she went through her whole description. It was a great description. But that's a lot of the answers are in that 20 to 30 range, which is great. Last question. Book. I'm really into books and podcasts and TED Talks. Do you have a book or podcast or TED Talk recommendation?
I don't really read a lot of books. I read a lot of stuff, but not a lot of books. Simon Sinek.
Yeah, of course.
He's a really interesting guy. He's got an interesting perspective, and he has this TED Talk that I've seen. I've actually watched a few times where he talks about not how we do or what we do, but sort of the why.
It's the power of why. Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot to be learned from especially people who are out selling.
Sure.
From that guy.
That's an 18-minute TED Talk. Simon Sinek, The Power of Why.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it.
One of my mentors turned me on to it. I've probably watched it, no lie, 15, 20 times.
Yeah.
So, Louis, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
You.
We're going to turn it off, but I'm going to be going into the building with Louis. We're going to be taking photos and videos and all. We'll be posting them. Thank you guys for watching. Any parting words? Where do they find 1000 Museum? Let's go there. How do they find you guys?
Well, 1000museum.com.
Okay.
We have a sales office that's open daily right next to the project. We're going to be completing, like I said, towards the end of this first quarter, and we still have some units available.
There you go. Louis, thank you so much. I appreciate it.